Pretty heavy regrets there, aren't there? As we look back, there are things oftentimes that we regret. Some of them simple and easy and just lighthearted, and some of them some real big regrets. But one of the things a new year does is it brings a clean slate. That's why we're starting the year with this new series called Clean Slate. We're starting with that because really we know there's no difference between December 31st and January 1st. Like there's not anything that happens that's spectacular that makes it any different. But for all of us, just as we think about it, it's the beginning of a new year. It's a clean slate. Everything in the past is in the past. This is an easy way for us to look at it and say, that was last year, and now this is this year. We begin the year with a clean slate. And so we're talking about how to go into 2021 and make it the best year possible. And so we're going to talk over the next 5 weeks about this book called Better Decisions and Fewer Regrets. Better Decisions and Fewer Regrets. 5 questions that you need to ask in order to make better decisions. It's a book by Andy Stanley. We'd encourage you to pick it up. Go to Amazon. You can get it for like $10 or $15 on Amazon. They'll ship it out to you quick. You can follow along with us. Read through it over the next couple of weeks as we go through each of those questions. We'll be taking one question each week for the next 5 weeks and talking about these things, trying to really help us to make better decisions and have fewer regrets. Because here's the thing. Our lives are made of decisions. It's your life, it's your story, and it's made up of all your decisions. We make decisions every day, and those decisions shape our future, they shape our present, they shape everything about our lives. They are our story. Decisions make us who we are. And so we want to make better decisions. We want to make the best decisions. As we look back, we see regret. Regret comes from bad decisions. And I'm just going to tell you, you have been there. You have been there for every single one of your bad decisions. There's a common denominator in every bad decision you have ever made. It's you. I mean, it's me too. I've been there for every bad decision I have made as well. Bad decisions lead us to the brokenness and pain and the cycles that we find ourselves in. So how do we make better decisions and have fewer regrets? That's what we're going to talk about over the next couple weeks. I have a bunch of scars. I have scars really kind of all over my body because as a child, I was not a careful kid. And so I have scars, but as an adult, I have some scars from that as well. I have this scar on my hand. It's kind of shaped like a U because when we had a flag hanging on our house, the outside of our house, the wind would blow and wrap the flag around. And so I didn't want to get out of the ladder every time it did that. So I found this metal pole that I could reach up and kind of undo the flag with. I just push it up and undo the flag. Well, one day, it kind of had a sharp bottom on it, but I wasn't worried. And then I shoved it, and it hit the eave of the house, and it shoved that metal rod right down onto my hand and took a big, huge chunk, like a hole, out of my hand. So I have a scar on my hand that shows that. I have a scar on my ankle, on my foot, where I was holding an angle grinder, cutting some metal, and there was a part that I kind of couldn't get to, and so instead of holding it with 2 hands, I was holding it with 1 hand, kind of in a way that I shouldn't, and it kicked out of my hand, and I dropped it, and it went right down and was cutting into my ankle or my foot, and it was about to grind through my bone, except for my sock got wrapped up around it, and it stopped it, and so then it didn't cut all the way through, but I have a big scar there from that. All of the scars that you carry in life and that I carry in life, they come from bad decisions. All of the scars physically, but also emotionally and spiritually in our lives, all of the scars that we have come from bad decisions. And I want to be clear about this. Some of the hurt and the pain doesn't come from our own bad decision, but the bad decisions of others. The injuries might come from others, but the scars come from bad decisions on our part. Well, let me explain that a little bit. I have in the back of my head back here, I have a scar that's a little bald spot back there because of the scar. And when I go to to get my hair cut, I have to tell them, hey, you have to kind of keep that covered up because it's a bald spot. And they either don't cut any hair back there, and so I just have this big flop of hair back there. It's terrible. Or they just cut it too short. And typically, my bald spot always shows for a couple days after I get a haircut. So if you ever see me and you see a little bald spot, you know I got a haircut. But that bald spot's there from a scar that I got when I was a kid. When I was a kid, my brother and I were out looking for railroad spikes by the train tracks behind our house. You know what railroad spikes are? They're those big giant metal nails that they use to hold the train tracks in place. And sometimes those would be laying around the side of the railroad tracks. I don't know why, and I don't think it's safe for the things that hold down the tracks to be just laying next to the tracks, but they were. And so we would collect them and I don't know, do stuff that kids did with them, right? And so these big, heavy steel metal spikes that we would collect, we got a bunch of them, and we brought them back to our house and threw them over the brick wall into our backyard. I thought we were done. And so I jumped up on the brick wall. I was climbing over, and my brother didn't know that I thought we were done and didn't know that I was climbing over the wall. And so he threw a spike, and it hit me right in the back of the head. In my mind, the way that I remember it, the railroad spike was stuck in the back of my head, like sticking out. I reached back and pulled it out. I think probably it just hit my head and fell off. But there was a lot of blood. There was a lot of blood everywhere. We cleaned up the blood, and it was one of those wounds my mom saw that she said, we probably should go to the doctor and get some stitches in this. Like, this would probably get some stitches, but she's a single mom, not a lot of money, thinking of the emergency room, leaving the other kids at home, going down, waiting there, all of this stuff. Well, let's put some Neosporin on it, a Band-Aid, some duct tape, and it'll be okay, right? So that's what we did. We just, bandaged it up and thought that it would be okay. It got infected. It got infected and got worse, and I ended up having to go to the doctor to get some stuff to put on it. And it scarred, not because of the injury. It scarred because of the infection. I have a bald spot not because I got a spike thrown at my head, but because of what happened after that. On my ankle, the scar that's there from the grinder, that one probably should have had stitches too. But I'll let you in on a secret. Super glue is as good as stitches. So I used super glue on that one, and that now has a scar there, probably because of what I did after it. Oftentimes the injury isn't what causes the scar, it's how we deal with it after. And the scars in your life, or the injuries in your life that you haven't dealt with, they may leave deep scars. The injuries that have come from other people's bad decisions, the hurt and the pain that other people have caused in your life, if you don't deal with it well, it'll leave scars. Most of the scars are left by our own bad decisions. So we want to not have that. We want to not have those kind of bad decisions. Decisions are what make up our life. They're what set the tone for our future. They're what make our story. Every part of your life is made up of decisions. Some of them small and tiny, and some of them really big decisions. So how do we make better ones? We're going to talk about that over the next 5 weeks. We're going to answer these questions. The first question that we're going to ask, better decisions, begins with asking this question. Am I being honest with myself, really? Am I being honest with myself, really? Now, you have to throw that word really on the end of it, because if you just ask, am I being honest with myself, you just tend to ask that and go, yeah, okay. But when you ask it and you add that on there, you say, am I being honest with myself? Am I being honest with myself, really? It makes you think about it just a little bit more. Am I being honest with myself, really? I'll tell you this. The easiest person to deceive is the person in the mirror. The person in the mirror is the easiest person for us to deceive. Why? Because we believe ourselves more than we believe anybody else. We believe what we have to say more than we believe anything anybody else has to say. And also because we want to be proven right more than we want to seek out the truth. Listen to that. We want to be proven right more than we want to seek out the truth. We have this thing in life, and all of us have it. We have this thing called confirmation bias. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but it's a psychological term. It comes from studying people and the way that we act and the things that we do. It's been around for a long time, but confirmation bias is basically this. It says that you have an opinion about pretty much everything. And all of the stuff in your life, all of the things you encounter, all the stuff you read and hear and see, it will confirm what you already think, know, and believe. That when you believe something, you find and you filter all of the stuff coming into your life to confirm that. Because we want to be right more than we want to seek truth. That's why the Bible says, seek first the truth. Because we want to be right, so we don't often look at the truth. Just think about how you bring information in. When you come across something that you agree with, say politically or in jobs or whatever you think about what recipe, chocolate chip cookie recipe to use, right? You look at the stuff coming into your life, and when you see something that agrees with yours, you repost it, you repeat it, you hold on to that. You laugh at it, you think it's good, and when you see the stuff that you don't agree with, that just kind of gets pushed to the side. We want to be right more than we want to understand the truth. And here's the thing. You've been there for every bad decision that you've made in life, but I'm going to take that one step further. You have deceived yourself into every bad decision that you've made in life. We ask the question, am I being honest with myself? Because you have deceived yourself into every bad decision. Nobody makes a bad decision on purpose. Nobody says, hey, I know that this is going to hurt and be awful and terrible, but I'm going to do it anyway. We deceive ourselves into those bad decisions. Smart people make dumb decisions because we deceive ourselves. Every bad decision in life that you have ever made, you have deceived yourself into. So if you want to make better decisions, begin asking the question, am I being honest with myself, really? You can't make the best decisions. Nothing will change until you are brutally honest with yourself. We can't look back on the last year and know what was not good and change it for the next year until we're brutally honest with ourselves about why we made the decisions we made. Until you're honest with yourself, and I'm honest with until we are all honest with ourselves about why we're choosing the things that we do, nothing will change. I'm sure that you've done this. Every one of us has done this. We look in the mirror and we think, why did I do that? Why did I do that again? I'll tell you, every one of my scars on my body, I can tell you afterwards I was like, that was dumb. Why did I do that? Why couldn't I have? There's always a way around it. But we deceive ourselves. There are three kind of, I think, big areas that we deceive ourselves. The biggest places we deceive ourselves are these three: in purchases, in relationships, and in habits. And if you think about all of your decisions in life that have been shaping and forming who you are and the story that your life is telling, most of them have something to do with purchases, relationships, or habits. When I was just married for probably about 5, maybe 7 or 8 years, we bought a new house. We'd lived in a house for a while, and we moved, bought a new house, and it had this great big loft. And up in the loft, there was a pool table. We put a couch up there. It was an awesome, entertaining loft. The only thing it was missing was a TV. It needed a big TV. We only had like a 24-inch TV that was like 36 inches deep. I mean, it was like deeper than it was big on the screen, right? And it was square and ugly, and it was downstairs, and the loft was upstairs. It needed a nice big TV. My wife went on a women's retreat, and I went to this auction where they sell, like, I don't know, like stuff that fell off the back of trucks going to the store, or different things like that. They get these lots of things. They sell them. And so you bid on all this furniture and different things. Well, they had TVs. And they had this beautiful, I say beautiful, I'll tell you about it in a minute, but this big, I mean big. It was like 47 inches big TV. Now, you know that like then that was big, right? It was 47 inches was the screen size, like 4.5 feet was the TV size, right? It was giant, and it was silver. And it was one of those kind of like, you know, it had the speaker on the bottom, and it kind of had a rear projection kind of thing, so it had like a slanted back. It stuck out from the wall a long way. But I saw it, and I was like, that's the TV for our loft. It was like spotlit, angels were singing. It was a glorious moment. And so I started to bid. And I did what we do when we deceive ourselves into bad decisions. I changed from I want to I need. And if you think about your bad decisions, most of them come because we change ourselves from I want to I need. When we change from I want to I need, then our brains begin to come up with reasons and justifications as to why now we need that thing. I went from wanting the TV to needing it. We need that in our life. We need that to entertain people. We need that. And let me just tell you, this is going to be great because people will come to know Jesus because they'll come to our house and watch Lost or 24. And while we're sitting in the loft, I'm sure that some of the Bible will come out and they'll get to know Jesus. This is going to affect people's eternity. I can't not raise my paddle while this auction is going on, right? And so I raised my paddle, and every time I raised it, thinking, I'm not sure if I should spend this much. But then I decided to tell myself why we needed it a little bit more each time. And I paid $1,100 for that TV. And now here's what happens at an auction. When you raise your paddle and they say sold, that means you have bought the thing. When you get your paddle, you give them money information like a credit card or a checking account, so that when they say sold and your number, you have now paid for whatever it is you bought. There is no going back and saying, oh, I actually didn't know that I didn't want that. You're done. And as soon as they said sold, this wave of, oh my goodness, what did I just do, came crashing down upon me. And I knew that in a day, my wife was going to come home from the women's retreat, and she was going to see this big silver monstrosity TV in our loft. And first, she was going to say, where did that come from? And then second, the words $1,100 were going to have to come out of my mouth at some point in the conversation. This was a bad decision, and it came about the way most of our bad decisions come about. I wanted something, and then I told myself I needed it, and then I lied to myself, I deceived myself as it was going on, and then I got to the point where I was like, man, that was a bad decision. That's the process that we typically go through, and typically we do that with purchases, relationships, and habits. I want to stay with that guy in that bad relationship. I need to stay. No, I need to stay. I need him. I can't live without him. I have to be with him. And so we stay. We lie to ourselves and deceive ourselves, and we stay. I want to get this promotion, and so I'm going to lie a little bit in this job, but I need this promotion. I need the money that's going to come from it. I need all of these things. And so we begin to make bad decisions because we change from want to need. We deceive ourselves. So why is it that we deceive ourselves? Chances are you could think of all of those areas, purchases, relationships, and habits. Chances are you could think of all of those, and you could think of stories about each one of those things that are bad decisions that you've made. And chances are you could take those back and look at each one of those bad decisions and see how you deceived yourself in it. That's the thing. When we look back at bad decisions, we can typically see the way we deceived ourselves. So why do we do it? Why do we deceive ourselves? Why do we lie to ourselves? Nobody wants to, right? I mean, you don't want to say these things to yourself, or you don't want to be dishonest with yourself. But I think there are three reasons why we deceive ourselves. The first is to justify. We move from want to need, and then we come up with reasons why it's okay, why it's good. It's okay because. It's okay to buy this TV because I'm going to use it to entertain people, and that's a good thing. It's okay to buy this TV because I make enough money to pay for it, and even though we just bought a new house and we don't have a lot of money, it's okay because we justify because we want. We make things okay in our lives. I shouldn't be in this relationship. I shouldn't have this affair. I shouldn't use these drugs. But it's okay because we justify these things. That's why we lie to ourselves, so that we can justify them and make them okay. The second reason we lie to ourselves is to hide the truth from others. We don't want anybody else to know. We don't want anybody else to know about our bad decisions. We don't want anybody else to know about the bad and negative things in our lives. And let me tell you how this creates a problem. It creates a problem because we want to change those things that are bad. We want to change them, and we think to ourselves, the deceit that we have in ourselves says this to us. It says, it's okay. Nobody has to know. I can fix it all, and nobody will ever know I was addicted. I can fix it all, and nobody will ever know I was lying. I can fix it all, and nobody will ever know I was buried in debt. We think that if people don't know, we can still fix it all. The thing is, when we're doing it this way, it's guilt that's driving us. Guilt over the past decisions, the bad things that we've decided to do that have shaped and formed our lives. It's guilt over those things that's keeping us from trying or from allowing other people to see it. Guilt says to us, this is who you are. This is who you are, and so you can't let people see that. Shame is different. Shame is healthy. Shame helps us to grow from the bad decisions. Shame allows people in. Because shame doesn't say, this is who I am. Shame says, this is what I did. Shame says, this is what I did. And listen carefully to that, because did is in the past. When shame says, this is what I did, that's in the past. When guilt says, this is who I am, that's in the present. Shame is in the past, and we can move past it. We can move beyond it. This is what I did, but I no longer do that. Now I have accountability. Now I can make good decisions. I can put that in my past. When we allow other people in, we're afraid of that. And let me just tell you, it's a scary and it's a hard thing to do. But when we allow other people in is when we can move past all of those things. It's when we can truly heal from the bad decisions and truly start making good decisions when we let other people see it. So we want to hide the truth from others. That's why we lie to ourselves. And then third, we want to hide the truth from ourselves. We want to hide the truth from ourselves because, frankly, we want to do it. We want to make bad decisions. We want to do those things that are wrong. Because let's be honest, sin is fun. I'm just, right? Sin is fun. There's no sin out there. There's nothing out there that you go, man, that looks awful to do. Now, I mean, some of it that, like, okay, these drugs, I can look at them and go, no, that's bad. But let's just say anything you look at that tempts you, it tempts you because it's attractive, because it's exciting, because it's fun, because you want to do it. That's where it comes from. The Bible says this in James chapter 1. It says this about being tempted. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when by their own evil desires they are dragged away and enticed. We are dragged away and enticed by our own evil desires. It's the things inside of us that tempt us. It's the things that look good to us. Do you ever wonder why the things that you're trying to get rid of, the things you're trying to stop doing are the things that fall right in front of you? It's because temptation comes from you. It comes from the evil desires within us. So I'm tempted, and the things are around me that I want. We don't want to tell ourselves the truth about those things because we want to do them. We want to have those things in our lives because they're exciting and they're fun. So we lie to ourselves about them. We lie to ourselves about the impact of them. We lie to ourselves about the difference that they make in our story. So how do we deceive ourselves? That's kind of the reasons why we deceive ourselves and tell ourselves lies. But how do we do that? I'm going to go through a bunch of ways of how we deceive ourselves. Here's the thing. When we make bad decisions, rarely do we ever do that with a wise kind of looking and evaluating the decision that we're about to make. We don't ever do that with wisdom. We don't often do that with wisdom and end up in a bad decision. Most of the time, we don't consider it at all. When our daughter was young, I might have told you this story before, but when our daughter was young, Allison, she's our oldest, when she was about 3 or 4 years old, she was riding in the back of the car, and she was playing around with some toys, and she threw one of her toys at one of us in the front seat. This was not good, and so we scolded her and told her not to do it again, and she gave her back her toy, and she did it again. She threw that and intentionally, rebelliously, did exactly what we had just told her not to do. And so then we got a little bit serious with her, and I said, listen, if you do that again, you're going to get in trouble. And so she looked at me, and she grabbed the thing, and she did it again. And so I said, listen, Allison, if you do that again, you're going to get a spanking. We're going to stop the car, and you're going to get a spanking if you do that again. And she got this look on her face that was like questioning. And she looked at me, and she's like 3. And she said, tell me again, Dad? Let me just say, that about put me through the roof of the car, right? But I held my calm, and I said, if you do that again, you are going to get a spanking. I don't think I opened my teeth when I said that. It was just, if you do that again, right? It was kind of one of those kind of things. But she looked at me and she said, tell me again. Now, this is what she was doing. She was weighing the consequences of that action. Like, I know the bad things that will happen if I do this, but the fun it is to throw this thing at them. And so I'm weighing is it worth getting a spanking to have the fun of throwing this toy? That's what she's thinking. Now, also, she's telling herself, no, the bad things won't happen. He won't really spank me. He won't really do that, will he? This is not usually the process we go through when we make bad decisions. Most of the time, we don't look at the bad decision and weigh all the options and think about it in those ways. The Bible says in James, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all. We ought to go into our decisions with wisdom. We ought to go into our decisions evaluating and thinking about them. But in order to do that, we have to be honest with ourselves. So how do we lie to ourselves? How do we deceive ourselves? The first thing is that we tell ourselves all these things. We tell ourselves, it doesn't matter what I do. I do what I want. It doesn't matter what I do. My actions don't carry any weight. I'm not hurting anybody else. Have you heard that? Have you said that to yourself? I'm not hurting anybody else. It's my decision. It's my life. It's all about me, and it's not hurting anyone else. This might be the worst thing that we can tell ourselves for the people around us. So many times I've had people in front of me, you've had people in front of you, that you just want to shake. And you want to say, don't you understand the harm that you are causing everyone around you? I've encountered so many of those people. I've been that person before, because most of the time we don't see the impact that our actions, the things that we're doing, have on the people around us. It doesn't just affect our story when we make a bad decision, it affects all of the people around us. But we tell ourselves, it doesn't matter what I do. James says differently. In James chapter 1, verse 22, it says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." Don't just listen to what God tells you. See, the Bible tells us the kind of people we ought to be. The Bible tells us all of the things in life that we should avoid and all of the things in life that we should embrace and do. The Bible tells us what kind of character we should have. The Bible tells us all of these things about life. And James says, don't just listen to that and so deceive yourselves. It matters what you do, so do it. We deceive ourselves and we say, it doesn't matter what I do. James says, don't listen to the word and not do it. You're lying to yourself. Do what it says. We also tell ourselves, it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I say. My words don't matter. Nobody's listening anyway. It doesn't matter what I say to myself because it's just me. It doesn't matter what I say to other people. Is it really that bad that I use that kind of language or say those kind of words? Is it really that bad that I tell those white lies like that? I mean, I'm not really hurting anybody by saying those things or telling people those things. It doesn't matter what I say. Listen to James just a couple verses later in verse 26 of chapter 1. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Your word matters. The things that you say matter. The way that you speak matters. We can't lie to ourselves and say, what I do doesn't matter, what I say doesn't matter, because it does. James makes it pretty clear there that we're lying to ourselves when we say it doesn't. The other thing that we say doesn't matter is we say it doesn't matter when I do it. Have you done this before? You say, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that later. I don't want you to raise your hand because I don't want to embarrass anybody or make anybody feel guilty, but how many of you decided that you were going to eat well in the new year, and then New Year's Day was Saturday and you decided, I'll wait till Monday? That's me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll eat really well. I'll start on Monday, right? That's pretty typical at the end of the week for us to go, man, I'm going to start eating well, and then I'll wait till Monday because, well, it's the weekend, right? I'll wait till tomorrow. I'll do that later. I can always stop next week. I can quit doing this later on. We tend to think that we have all the time in the world. James, pretty smart guy, he says this a couple chapters later in chapter 4. He says, now listen, you who say today or tomorrow, we can go to this or that city and do this or that thing, make money, carry on business. Why? You don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. If 2020 taught us anything, it is that we are so uncertain about the future. We are so uncertain about what is coming. There is not a person on the planet that would have predicted all the stuff that happened in 2020. No one would have thought these things will all happen. I'm just telling you, back in February when they were saying, hey, you might have to stay in your house for a week, I was like, no way. That's not going to happen. We are so uncertain. Our lives, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. You could go from this place right now and get in a car accident and lose your life. And all of those things that you were saying, I'll do that tomorrow, they won't happen. We don't have the ability to lie to ourselves and say it doesn't matter when. When is now? The time to make a difference, the time to make good decisions, the time to change our patterns and our bad habits is now. It matters when, because we don't know what's coming next. So that's some of the ways that the things that we say to ourselves. We also say to ourselves, I'm not sinning. I'm not sinning. This isn't really, it's not a sin. Yeah, I know the Bible says that you shouldn't do this, but the Bible's old. It's 2020 now, 2021. The Bible was written a long time ago. This is cultural stuff. It's stuff that was meant for them a long time ago. This is not a sin anymore. This is not bad. It's not a sin. I'm a good person. Have you said that to yourself? I'm a good person. I do what's right. I'm not a sinner. This is what 1 John 1:8 says. If we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If any one of us says, I'm not a sinner, then you just lied, and you're a sinner because you just lied. I mean, that's just, it's what it is. But we tell ourselves, no, I'm good. I'm a good person. I'm not sinning. The other thing we tell ourselves is, I can't change. We tell ourselves, I can't change. I've always been this way. This is who I am. I'm broken. I will always be broken. We tell ourselves we can't change and we'll always be the same. And what that does is it keeps us stuck in the bad patterns and habits that we've always been in. In all of the brokenness, we stay in it because we tell ourselves we can't change. It's just how I am. I'm just late all the time. Do you know somebody like that who's just is like, yeah, I'm 5 minutes late. Everywhere I go, I'm 5 minutes late. Always been that way. It's just how I am. That's just me. No, that's a decision that you've made, and you can change. But we tell ourselves, I can't change. It's just how I am. Yeah, I eat cookies every single night before bed. I can't stop. Can't change it. It's just what I do. It's who I am. I really do eat cookies pretty much every night before bed. It's terrible. I love just some cookies and milk before I go to bed. It's like I'm Santa Claus. Okay, I'm sorry, I lost my place. We tell ourselves, I can't change. But this is maybe the worst lie that we can believe. Because the Bible says something so much different. Look at 2 Corinthians 5, verse 17. It says this, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, the new is here. If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, and the new is here. You see, the Bible says, not I cannot change. That's the lie. The truth is, you have already changed. The truth is that when you enter into a relationship with Jesus, you are changed from that point on. The truth is that you are a different creation, that you are new. Listen, last year is gone. We have a new year, a clean slate, a blank canvas to put the rest of the year on. You have right now in front of you the opportunity to make the best decisions for your life. You have the opportunity to be exactly who you want to be. And here's what the Bible says, you can do it. There is nothing in your life, no bad decision that you've made in the past, no habit that you have, no addiction, no insecurity, nothing that you have in your life, no hurt, no injury, no pain, no scars that can keep you from becoming who God wants you to be. All of that is overcomable. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's overcomable through Christ. Through Jesus, we conquer all of that and we become exactly who He wants us to be. So do not believe the lie, I can't change. Jesus wants you to know the truth. I have already changed you. I died so that you could be made new. I died so that you could be forgiven. Now sometimes we use that as another reason to lie. We say to ourselves, I'm forgiven, so I can do whatever I want. Jesus has already forgiven me, so I can do whatever I want. I think it was in the same conversation, but I'm not positive, as when Allison was throwing the toy at us. She sat in the back of the car, and a little while later, we were talking about her decision making and how, bad decisions are, they lead to bad things in life and all of that. And we told her, Jesus died for our sins. I mean, she knew that, and so we were talking about bad decisions, and she said, well, Jesus died for my sins, so it's okay. She was 3, and she's telling me that. Like, it begins from a young age. We begin to tell ourselves, it's okay, I'm forgiven. Romans 6 says, shall we go on sinning that grace might increase? And Paul follows that up with this statement, may it never be. May we never continue in our sin so that God's grace can be more. Jesus has already changed us. He has already made us a new creation. So in Colossians it says, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your other nature, your earthly nature. Get rid of that. Don't continue in your bad habits. Jesus died so that you could be forgiven. It's time to be honest. Honest with ourselves and honest with God. If you want to make better decisions, if you want to make the kind of decisions that will make you look back on 2021 and say, man, that was an awesome year that I made great decisions. If you want to look back and see that and say that with no regrets, then begin to be honest. Honest with yourself and honest with God. You see, we can't change until we become honest with ourselves. Let me tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a secret. God already knows it all. All of the stuff that you're trying to hide from Him, that you don't want to tell Him, all of the things in your life that you are just hiding because you don't want Him to know, God already knows all of them. He knows that you're trying to hide them from Him. He knows that you're lying to yourself about all of those things. God is not waiting for you to confess those things so that He can forgive you. Listen to 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. Now you might hear that verse and think, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us. So I need to confess in order for Him to forgive. The Bible is really clear about this. Jesus died and paid the penalty for your sin. You are forgiven. But when we confess our sin to God, when we are honest with ourselves and in turn honest with God, it does something for us. It's not so that God will forgive us. It's so that we will understand the forgiveness that God has already given us. When we confess our sins, we understand the flood of forgiveness that God has already poured into our lives. It changes our perspective because we confess. It doesn't earn us the forgiveness. It simply helps our heart to understand we are forgiven. Jesus died for that. He died so that His blood could cover all of our sin. We know that to be the truth of the gospel. Every day, every week in our service, we remember that. We take time every single week to remember the sacrifice of Christ. We have at the bottom of your seats a little cup. It has some juice in it and it has a cracker in it. And in just a moment, we'll take some time and we'll remember what Jesus did. And I want to encourage you to right now take a step in your life to say, I want to be honest. I want to be honest with myself. It's easy to say. I know it's easy for me to sit up here and say, be honest with yourself. It's easy for me to say, I'm going to be honest with myself, but it's really hard to really look deep inside and say, I'm going to stop deceiving myself. Take that step today. What is it in your life? What is it in 2020 that you have been lying to yourself about? and lying to everyone else about? What is it that you have been deceiving yourself about and God about? Take some time and decide today that you won't deceive yourself any longer. And be honest with you and be honest with God. That's what communion is all about. It's a time to be honest with God. Would you pray with me? God, we are people who deceive ourselves all the time. We deceive ourselves because we are selfish. We deceive ourselves because we want. And God, we deceive ourselves, and it keeps us from you. So God, I pray that you would begin the process of making better decisions in us right now. I pray that you would begin making that happen by bringing us to the point where we're going to be honest with ourselves. God, I pray that right now you would take away all of those things that we've held on to. God, that we've deceived ourselves with. God, I pray that you would take away all of that lying. You would flood over us with just this peace of knowing it's okay. It's okay. I know, and it's okay. God, give us that reassurance now as we remember the sacrifice you made. So I'd invite you now to take that juice and cracker that's at the bottom of your seat. Take some time, and as you see fit, whenever you want to, just go and peel those covers off and take that communion, remembering what Jesus did. And having a moment of honesty, of realness with yourself and with God.